Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, March 21st, and today is National 3D Day, National Memory Day, because everyone loves a good memory except for the stuff that you don't want to remember, National Single Parent Day, because there's a lot of you out there and we respect everything that you do, National Countdown Day, National Ag Day. Make sure you support a farmer, because without a farmer, you would have no food to eat. World Down Syndrome Day, National French Bread Day. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can use that fancy little QR code right up there in the top-hand corner of your screen to find out where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you're joining us in Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. But without further ado, we're going to kick it off with the dope dad himself. That's right, Rico Lamitte. And all we can do today is hope that the internet gangbanging wars in South Central have calmed down, because there's a major storm outside in LA. Took everyone over at least extra 30 minutes to get here today because of the crazy rain that's happening in LA. So all we can do is hope that the internet gods are going to be kind to Rico today. That's right. It is the dope dad, Rico Lamitte.
That's my new intro. Appreciate that, Jason, and hopefully my internet holds up today. But so my story's coming out of Florida today by several outlets, and it's good news on guns, but it's all about law and order. So former Florida Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried didn't make too many friends across the aisle when she was in office. In fact, she probably gained a few enemies after last year's unsuccessful gubernatorial bid to unseat the Republican Party's second favorite Florida man, Ron DeSantis. But a lawsuit she filed prior to leaving office just might leave a lasting bipartisan legacy in the Sunshine State by linking two issues all Floridians and a decent number of the rest of us can get behind: guns and weed.
Wow.
So she now serves as chairwoman of Florida Democratic Party, but last year, Nikki Fried first raised a lawsuit against the United States Department of Justice in her capacity as a state official, arguing a federal ban on medical cannabis patients to lawfully bear arms as being unconstitutional. Since leaving office, she's no longer party to the lawsuit, and Fried's Florida GOP AG commissioner's successor, Wilton Sampson, cowardly declined to pick up the case at the end of January. But the three individuals Fried fought for, each either current medical cannabis patients or wishing to become one, chose to soldier on, and with the way things are going, she just might win. In a new federal appeals court brief filed last week, the DOJ cited wide-ranging consequences that the Biden administration says would result from a favorable ruling against it. The plaintiffs are challenging the constitutionality of an existing firearms ban, arguing it violates the Second Amendment on several grounds. The lawsuit was originally moved for dismissal by the DOJ, but it's since changed tone, now saying that because the plaintiffs quote, attack the constitutionality of a long-standing provision of Gun Control Act, the federal government believes oral argument is therefore appropriate. The case may sound familiar, and that's because it's in a totally different federal court last month in Oklahoma. They separately ruled that the ban on cannabis consumers possessing guns is indeed unconstitutional. That case is also being appealed, but by the DOJ. But in this one, part of the plaintiff's argument is based on a recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling in a Second Amendment case out of New York, where the justices created a higher standard for restrictive gun rights policies. The ruling states any such restrictions must be consistent with the historical context of the Second Amendment's original 1791 ratification. The plaintiffs argued, correctly, that there is no adequate historical context justifying the prevention of state-registered medical cannabis patients from possessing guns. So the DOJ had no choice but to toss up a Hail Mary on this one, pulling an argument completely out of its ass, lumping cannabis together with cocaine and fentanyl while drawing a parallel between laws against firearm possession by drunk people. Here's what it said. Although drugs like marijuana, cocaine, and fentanyl were not in common use at the founding, the contemporaries recognized that alcohol renders users unable to safely bear arms and perceive those who regularly came intoxicated as threatening the social and political order. They then took it a step further, saying if the 11th Circuit accepts the plaintiff's argument, it'd render government powerless from imposing bans on all habitual users of controlled substances, including meth. Here's what that part said. Although plaintiffs seek to use marijuana, their arguments on this score are not limited to marijuana and would instead cast doubt on Congress's ability to disarm unlawful users of any controlled substance, including cocaine, fentanyl, or methamphetamines. But the next part, in my humble opinion, was more asinine than the first two. They claim the ratifiers of the Second Amendment understood just as immaturity and mental illness deprive individuals of reason, so do intoxicating substances. Making historic references to children, lunatics, and idiots, these are their words, who had their Second Amendment rights restricted. And the closing line was this. If adopted, the plaintiff's contention would carry wide-ranging consequences. Nothing in the Second Amendment doctrine or history justifies that extraordinary result. The department's flailing on this issue, and arguments in this particular case have shifted over the past year. After initially labeling cannabis consumers too dangerous to own guns because they're breaking federal law, even if it's a misdemeanor offense, last week it backed off previous claims that cannabis makes people more prone to committing violent crime. And while the latest brief contains some new arguments and references, it makes zero mention or acknowledgement of last month's ruling by the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Oklahoma to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit that a firearms ban of any cannabis consumer is unconstitutional. Supporters of the Florida lawsuit argue the required ATF disclosure question on cannabis consumption essentially creates incentive for law-abiding cannabis consumers to become felons, either by committing perjury, by lying, and buying a gun illegally. And God forbid somebody takes an even worse third option of foregoing their God-given right as a freedom-loving American to bear arms. The next step in the Florida federal appeals case is for the plaintiffs to submit their own brief, which is due next month. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, reporting live for High at 9 News. Love to hear what you guys think about this one.
Wait, owning a gun is a God-given right?
It's your right as an American citizen to own a gun.
Right, but it's not a God-given right.
They call it all American rights are God-given rights.
In America.
In America.
Yeah.
In America.
Supposed to know that.
Should be able to own a gun and smoke some weed.
It's just like your God-given right to be able to smoke cigars in the jacuzzi, Todd.
Yes.
Well, that's not a God-given right either. That's just an American right. It's not a God-given right. Which God is giving these rights?
God gave you the right to be born in America.
George Washington, the God of America.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Todd, I respect, I can appreciate your perspective here. The point is like they actually were hella drunk back in the day, because that was like cleaner than water to drink. So like, you know, they were drinking a lot. They were definitely heavily under the influence. Okay, so just because, you know, we're continuing down that path, and let's just be real, you know, alcohol and weed is like steroids for shooting sports. I mean, have you ever been freaking trap shooting high or drunk a little bit? Your aim is like on point. It's like you know, you got to be. You're like Lance Armstrong.
You're sure you don't just think that your aim is on point, Saman?
No, bro, because you're nailing the targets. I mean, it's like you're obviously
blow up and they don't, right?
Yeah, it's like you're obvious. But the point being is like,
that's for like,
you know,
shooting.
There shouldn't be an issue. It's because of the war on drugs, B, the crime bill that created this instance where if you had drugs and guns in the same place, or you're extra fucked. You know, so now, like, you know, it's just the pejorative way we think about these things. Still very draconian, very, you know, old. We need to advance this. We need to like get over this fact and say, hey, if you're a responsible gun owner, you're responsible with your alcohol, you're responsible with your weed, you don't have any DUIs, you don't have any crazy, you know, you're not menacing people with your guns in public. You know, what's the problem? Like, what are we talking about here? Why are we discussing this?
I would even take it a step further than that, Saman, because the way that they're framing it here, anybody who drinks alcohol at any point of time, you shouldn't be able to buy guns either. The way that they're framing
which is like, that's just like, you know, it's obvious. I think we all know that that's just like totally bullshit. So.
I mean, you know, I mean, this sounds to me a lot like this is like coming from the same type of mindset as this prosecutor in New York.
Yeah, I mean,
you know
what?
We're not even going there. Next. Anyway.
Yeah, I need Jason to elaborate on that. Actually, I don't even.
No, dude, no, you do,
because they're grasping at straws at nothing, basically, and it's a total waste of taxpayer funds.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the DOJ needs to just call it quits on this one and just hang it up. They're wasting our taxpayer money on this, and they're not going to
hang it up. Hang it up, DOJ. Neil Gore says she should just go cry in a closet. Forget about all this.
Yeah, the same rule is in Vegas, or in Nevada, should I say, where you can't own a gun if you have a medical marijuana card. You know, you can't protect yourself and your family if you have a medical marijuana card. It is just the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I actually think that you could still have a shotgun or a pistol in your house to protect your home, but you can't like do like a concealed carry.
Not how the law is written in Nevada, because
in Nevada, I think in Colorado,
it's a state registry to be considered a patient in Nevada,
right?
And so that's different than from like California, where it's just you go see a doctor and you get a recommendation. Your recommendation is not solidified in the state of Nevada until you go through the state process.
Yeah, but we talked about this. The same in California. They just don't put your name on the card.
Not the same at all in California. It's not.
But when you go to the county, when you go apply,
not even remotely close.
Hold on, Jason. Hold on. But to be considered a patient by the state of California, you have to have a state issue.
No, you do not. Card. That is fake news. That is only if you want to be sales tax exempt, then you do that. You are a patient once you have a doctor's recommendation, whether that's oral or written.
So if you want to share in the reciprocity, though, that any other state has with medical, you have to have a state issue card. Yes, you do.
No, that's fake news.
All right. No. Well, let's.
So is Nevada similar to Florida in this case? Then
yes.
Yeah, it'll be really, really interesting to see the dominoes start to fall around this, because like it or not, I mean, you can like guns or not. People come from different walks of life. Like where I'm from in Virginia, like everybody has a gun and we know how to shoot, right? It is your right as an American to be able to bear arms, and just because you are a part of I won't even say culture, you're a medical patient. You should not have your guns taken away from you, period. And I think that's what it's going to boil down to at the end of the day. Why are you going to allow this group of people to have guns, and this group of people cannot, simply because they're exercising another right? Right.
We have a couple comments from the Clubhouse audience. We hold on, Sean. We have Christopher up first from Suncoast Normal, and then we're going to follow it up with Sean from Weed for Warriors. Go ahead, Christopher.
Well, you know, the issue is this: the Schedule 1 status of cannabis.
You can legally possess your firearms by doing everything correct under state law. You can legally possess your medicine by doing everything correct under state law. But because you're in possession of a firearm with a Schedule I substance, you're breaking this federal law. And so, in the grand scheme of things, I applaud, Nikki Fried for taking action on this, challenging her own party and stepping up to the plate. The Biden administration is wrong to continue prohibition, and we should not have so many, I'll let Sean talk about the perspective of veterans, but it's just messed up that people fight and die for these constitutional rights that we take for granted, and our own government is treating us like criminals because of the way it carries out the war on drugs.
Thank you for that, man. Definitely agree 100%.
Yes. Sean, please proceed. Mr. Kernan, where are you? You got to unmute. There we go.
I'm on mute. There we go. Just touch on California. All you need is a private doctor's recommendation. That changed when SB 34 got passed because the absolute failure of the MMIC card, which was predominantly because people don't want to be on a list. Now, Todd's talking about the Ninth Circuit, which confirmed that you can't own guns, case you can't own guns if you're a marijuana user. That was a setup. It was a voluntary disclosure to set up that court case. There's no known court case of police checking medical, registries of medical marijuana patients. But it's a huge issue because a lot of our veterans are CCW security guards. Mm-hmm. And that goes, we just had a vet, Matt, who was pulling security at marijuana shows, got in trouble, had legally owned guns, put him up on a gun charge. And now they just raided his house and they found a dusty ammo can with a few rounds upstairs, and they got him up in charges back in jail again. And again, this is all over legally owned weapons, a combat veteran who doesn't have any other criminal activity on his record. You continue to criminalize our youth, criminalize our young adults, and the left and the right does it based on their culture wars. And this is total bullshit and it needs to change.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Sean. Thank you so much for that perspective. And we're going to do a piece on that. So we're going to bring you more on that story as the days continue.
Peace and love.
Let's keep rolling. Commercial. Yeah, we'll be right back.
Let's go.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Y'all know who it is. Up next is the cannabis industry's longest continuously operating retailer and West Hollywood's right-leaning president of cannabis tourism. Here to break us off with a little bit of news from the right side. The right side of what? The right side of being
right
wrong.
Side of reality, Rico.
Right side of being wrong.
Right side of reality.
Y'all know who it is. Jason Beck.
Oh, yeah, everybody. So, Rico, you just covered a story from Florida where we're going to stay in Florida because it's sunny out there and it happens to be raining in California. Because my story, a Florida hemp bill, is a corporate takedown of the hemp extract industry disguised as a safety bill. If you want to write and file a bill in Florida that fulfills a corporate special interest agenda, the devil is in the details. On March 4th, Senate Bill 1676 and House Bill 1475, filed by Senator Colleen Burton, Republican from Polk County, and she's also chair of the Health Policy in Florida Senate, and Representative Will Robinson, Republican from Brattletown, Manatee County, would clarify legislative intent regarding the plant and its derivatives, including defining hemp extract as a food that requires time and temperature control for safety and integrity of product. The bill was written to create a regulatory framework to increase the safety of the products sold outside of the 22 licensed medical cannabis treatment centers, or the MMTCs, the vertically integrated multi-million-dollar businesses, many of which are multi-state organizations, better known as MSOs. But the motivation behind the development of these bills has less to do with the safety of the public and more to do about corporate greed of the MTCs. and of which have been impatiently waiting for the billion-dollar adult use market to finally come to Florida. But in defining, in quotation, synthetic cannabinoids, in the language of the bill, it has the potential to ban the sale and possession of federally legal hemp products such as hemp-derived Delta-8, Delta-9, and THCA flower. Anyone who currently owns or uses such products could commit a felony if the bill were to become law. This would include many ordinary citizens who use hemp products for health and wellness purposes and who do not wish to enter the Florida Medical Cannabis Registry. Some of the products that would be affected include hemp-derived Delta-8 and 9 edibles, hemp-derived Delta-8 vape cartridges, and CBD edibles and THCA hemp flower. Cannabis researcher Dr. Greg Gailey indicated that the new definition of the hemp extract included exceeds 0.05 milligrams total tetrahydrocannabinol per dose or 2 milligrams total tetrahydrocannabinol per container. That would axe the hemp gummy industry, as well as every full-spectrum hemp tincture. He continued, as written, this could arguably prohibit any hemp extract product. It kind of depends, I guess. I think on when the extract is considered complete or if industry standard processing steps would be overlooked as just the initial process. In progress. Any extract is going to be distilled to remove solvent, which is simultaneously concentrating the cannabinoids and any other components that aren't boiled off. In fact, the more you look into the details of the bill, the more you realize that this bill was intended to destroy the hemp extract market that stands as competition to the MMTCs. In fact, it was written by one. In a recent conversation, former Commissioner of Agriculture Nikki Fried admonished the legislators filing and moving the bills forward. In a quote, she says, "Amazing how the allegedly small businesses supporting Republicans want to shut down a booming new industry to protect the medical marijuana monopolies." And when asked about the origins, she noted in a quote, "This is all Trulieve and needs to be called out," she says. The identical bill was filed in Arizona, and Trulieve has admitted that it was responsible for that filing, although they have not admitted to writing and lobbying for the Florida bill. It should be noted that Kim Rivers, the CEO of Trulieve, oversees all government affairs liaison efforts in Florida for the company. And the impact of this bill would be huge. It has the potential of creating thousands of felons as the market goes legacy, and can impact the 700 retailers in Florida that generate millions of tax revenue for the state, as well as employing thousands of workers. Multiply that by the 7 states that now have similar bills of similar origins, and the impact of corporate greed will be felt across the country. The Florida Healthy Alternatives Association has already begun to combat the bills and has raised over $1 million to lobby against these efforts. And the first hearing for the bill will be in the Senate Health, Senate Health Policy Committee, chaired by bill sponsor Burton. The House version has yet to be scheduled for its first committee hearing. But what do you guys think? Do we have the cannabis industry lobbying against the hemp industry for these bills? And oh man, it's all about the greed. And this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News. What do y'all think?
I mean, saying that this is a corporate takedown, isn't that go against your argument every other day, Jason?
What's that, Rico?
Saying that these bills are a corporate takedown of the hemp industry.
Well, these are going state by state to basically not allow these products to be sold.
Well, it's let me like recapture.
You're gonna put the science in right now?
Well, it's not science. It's just like everything. So they're talking about HACCP guidelines. So like what they're saying is now they want everything to be, done in a food safe way. So if there's labs that aren't like necessarily, compatible with like the state health laws, if they don't have like the right components or like the right infrastructure there to support like making products that people are consuming, that's one thing, because obviously the cannabis industry has the onus to like develop these, pseudo GMP facilities to create these products. So that's one thing they're trying to like do to trip them up. But it's obvious that like it's taking some money out of their pockets there, because if they're getting, gummies like the D8 gummies, I don't know if they're actually allowing D9 converted gummies in the market in Florida. I'm not 100% positive because I'm in California.
Well, we have Christopher from Suncoast Normal to comment on.
Yeah, I'd love to hear, but just to continue, but it's like all of these other alternatives are just taking the revenue from the cannabis operators. But we already know, Rico, that it's very politically windy in Florida, and the corporate companies and the relationships they have with like the regulators are big. And as we know with the True Leaf situation with Kim Rivers' husband that's doing some jail time, I think he should have probably got more, but that's the game down there. So it's all about who you have on your side down there and how high power your attorney is. But I'd love to hear about what's happening there from Suncoast Normal.
What do you have to say on this, Christopher?
Well, this plainly is not a legislative issue. It's a regulatory one. And the Department of Agriculture, through its rules enforcement mechanisms, should be dealing with this. But instead, what we have is high-powered lobbyists that, essentially these MSOs can afford, affecting these legislators. I mean, when you think about it, and I think about who the bill sponsor is, I mean, Colleen Burton probably gives two shits about the hemp industry any other day. And I know that the vast majority of our Republican leadership are not weed smokers. So, where is this coming from, right? And it's been shown it's a boilerplate bill circulated in multiple states. And the fact is that, the Farm Bill in 2018 allowed for, essentially this great hemp industry to spur across the country. The sad part about it is if you talk to Nikki Fried, under her tenure as ag commissioner, they gave her $0 for the hemp program in Florida. She had to cannibalize other funding sources, under her leadership to even enforce it. So, it's a cherry picking situation. And it's really sad to see that, in the grand scheme of things, free market and entrepreneurship are not valued that the Florida legislature is upholding, but instead it's whoever writes from the bigger campaign checks.
Yeah, that's how it is. That's why
the golden rule. The one with the gold makes the rules.
Follow the money every single time.
And this is just another example of how lawmakers don't understand this industry. Like they were saying, this should not be legislation. This should be regulations. And there is a big difference between legislation and regulations. And they just don't understand it to actually make those informed decisions. And that is why this industry needs to be out there educating a lot more. And sadly, you need to be raising a lot more money to also have a voice in the fight. And you actually have to be willing to put your money into the fight. We can't just sit back and hope that these guys are going to get it right, because they have shown at every turn they get it wrong. So I don't know why we keep sitting back doing nothing.
Well, because unfortunately we have to, Gretchen, because these are the way the laws have been created in this country.
We don't have to do nothing.
I would love to believe that, but for anybody that's listening that's ever had their door kicked in by the DEA will tell you otherwise.
I'm not looking for people to donate gazillions of dollars, because I know we don't have gazillions of dollars. But one thing that I will say Obama did was show this country that you can get a whole bunch of people together to donate $5. Bernie does it. Donate $10. Get it. We need to get behind an organization that we trust. And I know in this industry, that's hard to freaking find. That we
when there's
want
$1
out there
pre-rolls
as our
everywhere.
And once again, asking
pretend that
for
we need
financial support.
We need financial support. We absolutely do. Thank you, Bernie.
Yeah, I mean,
saying,
what would be great?
It's something that people need to do. How many people in this country consume cannabis? All right, let's start getting together and start taking a couple $5, $10 bills off people and actually putting it to work. We put that people do put that $10 behind like these legislatures that they're trying to promote into the Senate, into Congress. They do. No, they absolutely do not.
No, they do. They support those people. They support those people, and then they turn around and don't do anything about it. I mean,
stop it, bro. Stop it. These people do not put no type of money behind nothing.
Gretchen, I think you just created a word, taxually.
Actually, Rico.
Taxually.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Just send your $5, your $10 to me. I'll put it to work, people.
That's right.
We're gonna GoFundMe, Gretchen. Let's get you up there. Let's get Gretchen Gailey to support the cannabis people. Let's put our money behind Gretchen. I support that.
Let's get
High at 9
packed together.
High at 9 does have a donation button, and here I'm gonna share it over here. and hopefully one of you guys can put that into the chat for me.
Well,
It's just
easy,
so you know.
killer. That's going. Oh, slow your roll. That's
And
going to
once
Jason
again,
Beck's pocket.
asking-
No, that is not true. It's going in the high at 9 pocket. Stop it.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah,
funniest
yeah,
thing
yeah.
I've ever heard.
Okay.
Oh,
If
man.
anyone believes Jason Beck on that one,
You should always
send him your
believe me.
money.
I'm the truth teller up here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But coming up next, she's the feisty redhead that loves to stir the pot, especially when it's got pot-loving libs inside. She's also the dog mamacita that loves to dress her children up in obnoxious clothing, and I feel like PETA needs to pay a visit to her home. That's
They're
right.
gone. They're hiding now.
Of course they are. They're probably embarrassed that they being mocked in this
They love
crazy
their pajamas.
PJs. That's right. It is none other than the founder of Panoptic Strategies, Gretchen Gailey.
Anyway, my babies love their pajamas. They got real excited when I busted them out this morning just for you all. Put them out there.
They got
Today,
excited, huh?
What?
You said they got excited.
They did. They get, they jump
Their
around, their
tails
tails
started
wag. They get
wagging.
all
bet.
into it.
I bet they're
Anyway,
probably trying to figure out how to run away from you.
Don't the
You
other
know what,
dogs make
Jason
fun of
Beck?
them?
no, the other dogs want to know where they can get matching pajamas too. All right, my headline today is not a real official headline. Mine is actually a press release, and I'm going to use this as a call to action. I would love to see, instead of spending your $5-10, get on this free webinar tomorrow. The National Center on Safe Supporting Learning Environments is putting out a webinar tomorrow on understanding and preventing student marijuana use. The U.S. Department of Education is hosting a webinar series to address hot topics that are on the tops of educator minds. And after sharing federal updates, the series features lessons learned and best practices from faculty, staff, school districts, institutions of higher education, and other places of educational instruction. So their next webinar, which is tomorrow at 3 o'clock to 4:30 Eastern, is Understanding and Preventing Student Marijuana Use. According to the 2022 Monitoring the Future survey, 30.7% of 12th graders used marijuana in the past year. Youth marijuana use may lead to permanent effects on the developing brain, such as problems with attention, memory, and learning, especially with regular or heavy use. The amount of the mind-altering chemical THC in marijuana has been increasing over the past few decades. Higher THC levels may mean greater risk for harmful effects and greater risk for addiction. Join this webinar to learn more about the different forms of marijuana, its impact on the brain, health, development, and learning, and effective substance use prevention interventions to create environments where youth can thrive. This webinar will provide a series of presentations and a panel discussion and a live question and answer session. This is where you people come in. I want you there for the live question and answer session. The panelists that they have are from the National Center on Safe Supporting Learning Environments, the Cannabis Strategy Unit from the Division of Overdose Prevention, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention from the CDC. We have the Science Policy Branch from the Office of Science Policy and Communications from the National Institutes of Health and Drug Abuse. We have Harvard Medical School. We have the SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and the executive director of the Chippewa Valley Coalition for Youth and Families. I've never seen something more reefer madness coming out of the good old administration. And on top of that, they also have handy dandy handouts, which I was also looking through. And they talk about, the great horrible problems with addiction and what this could possibly do. My favorite here is to identify the signs. Common signs include unusual laughing, bloodshot eyes or repeated use of eye drops, strange smelling clothes, frequent use of incense and other deodorizers, drug-themed clothing, jewelry, or decor, and an unexplained lack of money or frequent requests for money. This is what our damn federal government is spending their money on, trying to educate people. I would love, and I will do my best to find the time to attend. Dr. Felicia, I was trying to get her opinion because a number of this does talk about addiction, and they do say it may alter the brain. And I do understand that the brain is still developing in young kids, and I'm not suggesting that marijuana has no effects, but it seems that the information that they're putting out there says your kid's going to hell in a handbasket if he uses marijuana. And not once in this whole entire numerous publications do they say the word cannabis. It would be nice if this administration acknowledged that there are other experts in this field. Perhaps some of the experts in this industry could be helpful in helping to educate. It will be interesting to see what they have to say. I would love if people show up. If you click on my link where my story was, it does give you the information of how to join the webinar. You all should show up. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Yes, make sure you head over to highat9news.com and click on Gretchen's story and click on that link at the bottom of her story so you can register for and have your voice heard. But we do have Dr. Felicia up to comment on this. Dr. Felicia, what do you have to say about all this?
Hey, everybody. Gretchen, I did look at the pamphlet, and the part that really bothers me was the fact that they, quote, said THC, a mind-altering compound that causes harmful health effects. That is very reefer madness, truly, because THC has a lot of medicinal effects. So it would have been better to say, THC may cause some transient harmful health effects, but there's no evidence that it causes long-term dangerous effects. There's a difference between acute intoxication and brain damage. So that's a bit reefer madness. Also, I guess in the other piece that I saw, they make it seem like youth use of cannabis is up when it's not. Even Nora Volkov of the National Institute on Drug Abuse has been shockingly surprised that youth use has actually declined since between 2011 and 2021. For high school students in the last 30 days of the survey of the CDC Youth Risk Behavior Survey, about 16% had used in the last 30 days compared to 22% in 2019. So it's actually down. And for guys, they have decreased usage from 20% to 18%. Women, I'm sorry, they decreased from 26% to 14%. And for female adolescents, they declined from 20% to 18%. So they didn't dip as much as the guys, but there's no increase in youth use of cannabis since legalization. I don't know where SAMHSA's getting their numbers. And in terms of risk of abuse or substance use disorder, the age is really more like 15. If they're starting earlier than 15, they may be at risk for cannabis use disorder, but the only increase we're seeing in usage is in young adults in legal states. So it is a bit disturbing that they're really continuing to promote this reefer madness.
I mean, don't you find it amusing that they talk about smoking cannabis is going to lead to you lighting incense regularly?
Right. What about the line? Gretchen, could you tell us the line about the jewelry?
Yeah, the jewelry. Yeah, tell us about the jewelry.
What was that line?
These are the warning signs to if you think your child may be consuming cannabis, look for their cookies apparel. That might be an indication.
Shots fired.
Yes.
My question, Dr. Felicia, I mean, you see the list of panelists that they have. These all are reputable agencies. Do you expect them to take a very reefer madness stance, or do you think they'll be open-minded scientists and really speak about the science?
Well, I don't have that list in front of me because I just literally just escorted my last patient out the door. But I'm encouraged. I mean, even at the International Cannabis Research Society, you're hearing more and more scientists push back when some people come up with prohibitionist type of statistics or old data. I'm hearing people actually start to push back. So I'm hopeful that people will talk about the science and not just the old prohibition research that they have had in the past.
And I think Jason Beck should get on there tomorrow when someone asks about what do you do when your kid ODs and tell them to drink milk. I would love to see that.
I will totally do that.
Let's actually talk about one other really key factor here is like, they don't talk about all of the psychotropic drugs that actually get like prescribed to children while their brain is in the same stage of development, right? So like Dr. Felicia, maybe you can also speak to this, but like, things like, the amphetamines that they give the kids and like, things like Adderall or other like whatever ADHD drugs, like it's kind of crazy, right? So, I mean, where's that conversation? How can we promote that conversation and say, hey, look, if we're going to compare, if we're going to have comps here, let's respectively have an intellectually honest conversation about what's happening in our society.
Right on.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, there are really not that many long-term studies on kids on these antipsychotics and antidepressants and anxiolytic medications. They put them on there and hope for the best, but they have so many side effects. I would rather see a child who is struggling with anxiety or depression under the care of a cannabis physician and on some cannabis versus these pharmaceuticals. I personally would prefer that.
Yeah, and there's so many other cannabinoids too, and therapies with other, minor cannabinoids with not just THC, and that's a whole nother, kind of door to open into this. Is like, as a plant scientist, as a natural medicine,
as a parent
producer, as a parent, but like just making this natural medicine for the last decade has taught me a lot about how our bodies absorb these things, and like, when we're doing synthetic compounds and we're adding those into our diets, it's chemically not stable for our bodies, right? And those things are going to be affected by something unnatural. And I think that's kind of just like a simple basic argument is just like the natural versus the unnatural and how that's affecting. But like the kids are the kids, and so just because a doctor prescribes it, and so from the medical community, I'm glad we have Dr. Felicia. We need to have more doctors having this conversation, not just with their patients but with each other, with their peers. I think that's more important. It's like we always talk about doctor-patient relationship, but doctor to doctor and just like the scientific community as a whole needs to kind of embrace and absorb this.
Needs to evolve a little bit, but we have to go to a commercial. Thank you so much for that, Gretchen. We're going to be right back, everybody.
Keeping up to date on the evolving policies of relevant state, local, and federal governments is key to success. When the future of your business is at stake, you need representation as dedicated as you are. With a maze of laws and regulations surrounding cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, knowing where to begin can be a challenge. Good thing the law offices of Omar Figueroa features a skilled, highly focused team ready to guide you through it all. They're accepting new clients in California and New York. So make sure you check them out at info@omarfigueroa.com.
Oh, Rico and Gretchen, I have to tell you this comment from the clubhouse room. You're going to love this before you get into this, Rico. But Gary Stein says, I hear MedMen swag reduces cannabis use.
I have a really quick comment on this.
Oh, go ahead, Nicole, please.
I really wish that the government would put this same energy into preventing children from interacting with pedophiles in the Catholic Church. That's such a big deal.
Ooh,
like,
yeah, spit
if
that fire,
they
girl.
putting all this energy into cannabis, reducing their use of cannabis and making it seem like the devil. I just wish they would just put the same amount of energy into that. I
totally couldn't agree with you more on that, Nicole.
But you know what? Taking down the Catholic Church will take away votes. But the thoughts and opinions and shade thrown at High at 9 News are those of the speakers and not those of any other speaker or his followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, area, territory, or any of its authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish any fiduciary responsibility or relationship. Our sponsors do not imply or constitute any endorsement by us or the expression of any opinion whatsoever on the part of any speaker on stage. If you are an easily offended person, move to Florida.
Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. Oh, yeah. Coming up next, she's a cannabis patient, a plant medicine advocate, and the founder of Purple Plant Magic to match her purple hair. She's the national brand ambassador for Black Buddha Cannabis and on Power 88 in Las Vegas, Nevada every Wednesday. That's right. It is none other than our very own Nicole Buffong.
Thank you so much, Jason, for that lovely introduction. So my story today is coming out of Las Vegas. Cannabis could be sold, consumed at certain events if new Nevada bill passes. So last week was the reading of this bill. I was on the call for it, but I want to get through the story first and I'll give my comments. You could be able to sell and consume cannabis and cannabis products at certain events if a new bill passes the Nevada legislature. State lawmakers are looking at a new bill being proposed by Assemblyman C.H. Miller. According to the bill, it would allow portable cannabis vendors to set up a shop. However, the event, as well as vendors, would need to receive a license from the Cannabis Compliance Board. For consumers, they would have to be at least 21 years or old to purchase any of those products, which would have to be bought from an adult use cannabis retail store. In terms of events, it would be for places with at least 150 people. Existing law prohibits, with certain exceptions, the consumption of cannabis or cannabis products in a public place. During a work session on Wednesday, Miller said that the bill was needed. This bill aims to direct consumption to a controlled atmosphere, Miller said. Everyone going to an event are not consuming cannabis, and everyone doesn't want to smell the smoke all the time, all over the place. He adds that while the state has made progress in regulating the cannabis industry, there's still work to do. While lounges give folks a designated space for them to consume socially, the mobile cannabis concierge, if you will allow us to bring a solution to events where people are also illicitly consuming cannabis, Miller said. We can continue supporting our blossoming industry that we're continuing to incubate and grow. This bill also creates a real path to course correction as it relates to providing an attainable and equitable opportunity for the folks most affected by poor drug policies, overlooked by the initial opportunity, and the least likely to have 1 million and means to get a real shot in a legitimate cannabis business. Aisha Goins is the chair of Equity and Inclusion on the state's Cannabis Advisory Commission. She outlined how the bill will benefit Nevadans. By allowing more licenses, Nevada would create more jobs and generate tax revenue that would further fund essential services like education, Goins said. By offering priority to social equity applicants, it will also help promote diversity and inclusivity in the cannabis industry. This isn't the first time lawmakers have heard a bill like this. A similar one was introduced during the last legislative session in 2021. However, it was not able to pass. Last year, the Nevada cannabis industry brought in $965 million in sales, which was down by more than 13% compared to 2021. So my consensus after attending the hearing of this bill, the reading of this bill last week, and the questions that legislators were asking, they were concerned about, people children having access to these type of events. And it was very clearly stated in the reading of the bill that these type of licenses would only be granted to vendors at events that are 21 and over. Another one of their concerns was, well, how are you going to prevent kids from coming into contact if it's an outdoor event? And so all of these questions kind of came up from people who obviously have not been to an event where there is a safe consumption area to understand how it would operate. But this bill came up in 2021. It did not pass. And then consumption lounges did pass. They were only given a fourth of those licenses to social equity applicants. But that is at a location. But think about when you come to Vegas and you go to a cannabis after party after MJ BizCon, or at a big event space, or you're at the Life is Beautiful festival and you want to consume, but there should be a safe space for you to be able to do that. So this is where this mobile concierge license would come into handy. And I think that them proposing in this bill that it only be available for social equity applicants, it narrows the application field. But like Aisha Goins says, this is something that is more attainable for somebody who does not have the means, who doesn't have $1 million, try to find a location. But it forces people who are having these events to work with these smaller vendor license holders. And I think that it's a good path forward for ownership for these smaller businesses and for people who have been most harmed and disenfranchised by the war on drugs or the war on cannabis specifically. And so I would love to hear what my fellow commentators and our audience thinks about this story. I will be watching this bill very carefully. We are meeting with CEIC this week, the Chamber of Cannabis and for MM, to discuss how we can make sure that this bill does get passed by supporting it, by showing that there's a communal effort in supporting this bill throughout the advocacy groups in Nevada. So I'm very interested to hear what my fellow correspondents think about this story. This is Nicole Buffong reporting for High at 9 News.
This is fascinating, Nicole. But I think I think what we should do is I think that Rico, I think we should introduce Todd, and I think these kind of stories kind of go hand in hand, and we'll put all the comments in one because we're running a little low on time.
Yeah, and Todd can chip in on this one too because he's
Sure.
Nevada granddaddy himself. So
yeah, absolutely. I first of all, I agree, Nicole, that weed should be for sale at these approved events. You know, people can show up with weed trucks like they show up with food trucks, right? And think how much more money the food trucks will make if there's a weed truck there, right?
Yes.
Right. That's right.
Well,
Right.
and I just wanted to ask Nicole, when these arguments were being made and you're listening to this, does anyone bring up, these concerns when it comes to alcohol? Like, oh my God, what could kids come into contact with alcohol at private events? It just seems so odd that they have such a double standard.
Yeah, exactly. And that was something that Aisha did bring up because she was reading the bill, presenting the bill to them. And that was something that she brought up as well. She's like, this is just like any other event that is 21 and over. If the event is not 21 and over, then this vendor would not be allowed to be at that event. So in the same way that you go to a concert and you go to a beer garden, you're not allowed in the beer garden unless you're 21 and over. It's
Right.
just that simple.
Hold on, let's
keep it moving.
Rico.
All right. So he's a dope granddaddy with a golden voice, a co-founder of the Smuggleverse and a 30-year media producer, director, and editor. This man does it all, I swear to y'all. Coming straight out of Las Vegas, Nevada, it is Todd Denkin.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for that, Rico. And yet another national story about Las Vegas as Las Vegas unveils unusual first cannabis residency. Adult freedom and indulging in multiple pleasures have been Las Vegas themes ever since gambling was re-legalized in Nevada on March 19th, 1931. It had been outlawed in 1910 after being a legal activity, but Sin City has enjoyed 92 years of living on the edge since gaming became legal again. The Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority in 2020 adopted a new variation of its former catchphrase, "What happens here stays here," which Sin City began promoting in one of marketing's most successful advertising campaigns in 2003. The new slogan for tourism adopted in January 2020 is, "What happens here only happens here." The catchphrase might suggest anything goes in Sin City, but among the vices remaining illegal on the Las Vegas Strip are prostitution, though sex for hire is legal in some parts of Nevada, and smoking pot. You can't legally smoke pot in public in Las Vegas, though you can possess cannabis and legally smoke it in a private residence. Things are starting to loosen up for the cannabis crowd in Las Vegas as the city's biggest cannabis dispensary, Planet 13, recently won approval to open a first-of-its-kind marijuana smoking lounge off the Strip. Planet 13 will also be convenient for cannabis fans seeking 420-themed events, as the venue is not far from entertainment venue Area 15, which will present performances that might cater to the tastes of the dispensary's customers. Las Vegas entertainment venue Area 15 will host an unusual cannabis-themed performance residency with magician Ben Zabin ready to blow the minds of his audience, whether stoned or sober, with his show Smokus Pocus. Zabin, a former weed dealer, claims to have been a magician all of his life and has spent the last 15 years performing over 1,000 magic shows for global audiences, according to his website. The self-described cannabis connoisseur dropped out of college to do magic shows on cruise ships while also running a strong weed business. The magician in May 2021 combined his passions of cannabis and magic to create his show Smokus Pocus, and he did that in his hometown of Portland, Oregon. He has continued taking the show on tour throughout the U.S. with multiple sold-out extended runs in Brooklyn, New York, and he also launched a Canadian franchise of the show. Cannabis plants will appear, lighters will come to life, and bongs will bend reality in this immersive performance experience designed to enthrall both the stoned and the sober, the Smokus Pocus website asserts. Both stoned and sober audiences love the magical high, Zabin said in a statement. While many arrive baked, all will leave bewildered. The Area 15 website calls the show a mind-blowing experience of tokes, jokes, and tricks, which has enthralled thousands of cannabis enthusiasts throughout the U.S. and Canada. Join the dank debauchery at Area 15 and experience the first 420-themed attraction in Las Vegas. Zabin Smokus Pocus has scheduled performances in Oklahoma City on March 24th and Tulsa, Oklahoma on March 25th before bringing the show to Area 15 in Las Vegas for a 2-month residency from April 15th through June 15th. VIP tickets are $45. General admission are $30. And guests must be, here's the catch, 21 years of older to get in. Must have valid identification. And cannabis products will not be sold. And consuming cannabis is not permitted inside the venue. But you can still do it in your car in the parking lot on the way in. Just one note that in Las Vegas, we used to have a cannabis-themed museum called Cannabition that didn't quite work out. And there is a dispensary currently operating a cannabis lounge. It's called New Woo Dispensary. It's on the Indian Reservation, and they call it a tasting room where customers can buy a table and then order from the cannabis menu and enjoy joints, bong hits, dabs, right there at the lounge. It's a really cool place to go, and they have lots and lots and lots of really great weed. So what do you guys think about this Cannabis Magic Show? I'm Todd Denkin with High at 9 News.
Cannabis is already magic.
This ties in so well with your story, Nicole. Are you with us?
Yeah, it definitely ties in because, again, nowhere to smoke weed, right? Why not?
Well,
if you're going to watch a stoner show, you should be able to smoke some weed at the stoner show.
Yeah, go ahead, Nicole.
Absolutely. And the other thing to watch with this is the fact that these dispensaries, these retail locations are going to be first to market when it comes to consumption lounges. So the independent lounge license holders now have to compete with them, and they have to buy their product from them. Right. And if these new licenses get passed, if these new licenses get awarded for the mobile concierge license, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to have to buy their product from them and then resell it at their concert or event.
Why not just be one of these mobile things without a license, and then you don't have to buy your product from the stores at the overpriced prices, and you could just sell your own products?
You know why, Jason? Because that is illegal.
and you can't even bring your own cannabis. That's the other thing.
Where is this
no BYOP?
Where's this area? Where's this area at, you guys? Area, was it 51, 41, 31?
Area 15. It's literally right off the 15 highway.
Right off the highway.
It's not far from Planet 13, actually.
Would it be considered on the strip or off the strip?
Off the strip.
No, it's off strip.
It's
not on Las Vegas Boulevard. It's actually like on the boulevard that runs parallel to Las Vegas Boulevard. Right. You can see it from the strip, but it's not on the strip.
Yeah, and it's an event venue where they have all kinds of concerts and interesting and unusual acts performing, and now they're taking up residents with a cannabis magician.
I think we should all go there when we're all in town next time. We should all do this and
you should show them Jason how to make a joint disappear.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna
Jason knows how to make a joint disappear.
I'm going to smoke some weed in there, and I'm going to see what their reaction is.
They'll come and tell you to put it out. Believe me.
I want to see how far it goes. Because I'm going to pretend that I'm blind and deaf.
Watch this.
Yeah.
Walk in with your cane.
I'm gonna identify as that. We got to go to a commercial. Thank you all so much for these stories. These were great today. Let's run this last commercial, Adam. Oh, yeah. Coming in to land the plane. That's right. It is Saman Razani. He's the man that's a a cannabis formulations expert, along with reminding all women going through menopause how to say hello again. That's right. It is the man, Saman Razani.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our wonderful audience. I'll make it quick. We have a story today from the Tennessee Lookout via Marijuana Moment. It's a sad story, unfortunately, involving kids and cannabis. We hate to see these stories, but we need to know. 5 children were taken from a black family after a traffic stop in Coffee County. Will remain in the custody of Department of Children's Services following a hearing in juvenile court on Monday. Bianca Claiborne and Deontay Williams were pulled over by the Tennessee Highway Patrol for tinted car windows and driving in the left lane on I-24 without passing as they tried to make their way from their home in Georgia to a family funeral in Chicago last month. After a search of the family car turned up 5 grams of marijuana, a misdemeanor in Tennessee, Williams was arrested. Claiborne was cited and released with the couple's 5 children. In quotes, the mother had custody of the children when we were done, the THP colonel told Channel 2 News. Less than 6 hours later, DCS forcibly took the children from Claiborne as she waited to bond Williams out of jail. This family has been without their babies for 30 days. Courtney Teasley, the family's attorney, said in a news conference outside of the Coffee County Justice Center following a juvenile court hearing, which was closed to the public. The youngest child, Teasley noted, is a breastfeeding infant. Wild. Claiborne will also be required to submit to a hair follicle test, Teasley said. Such tests can trace drug usage several months back. Both Claiborne and Williams submitted to urine drug screens a week after their children were taken. Williams tested positive for THC, the active ingredient in marijuana. Claiborne tested negative. The couple were then asked to submit to a rapid hair follicle test. Both tested positive for methamphetamines, oxycodone, and fentanyl. Both parents deny using these drugs. A Coffee County court administrator said they were inadmissible in court. And an expert said rapid hair follicle tests are known for producing false positives. DCS nevertheless used the results of a rapid test in a court filing as the basis for accusing Claiborne and Williams of severe child abuse. DCS also claimed the kids 7, 5, 3, and 2 years of age and 4 months old, said that their father took them on drug deals. Williams has called those claims absolute lunacy. The DCS claims were made in court filing a week after the kids were taken away. Teasley declined to provide any additional details about the hearing, including the reason for the mother's hair follicle test, citing a court order that prevents her from saying more. The parents also declined to comment, asking for privacy as they placed their children into a waiting car after the hearing. The 5 children were present during the parents' appearances at the courthouse, with the smallest children variously seen held in their father's arms or holding their mother's hand. The children were initially split up and placed into 3 different foster homes but are now being cared for by Nashville area relatives who agreed to serve as a foster family. More than half a dozen DCS officials, including its chief legal counsel, a deputy commissioner, and communications director, were also present inside the small county courthouse, an unusual high-level turnout for a county juvenile court case. Advocates for the family turning out to show support included Theda Murphy, executive director of the No Exceptions Prison Collective, who noted that DCS has itself been the subject of intense public scrutiny for the treatment of children in its care, including a lack of appropriate placements that have kept children sleeping on office floors for months. I am here today because DCS has been keeping children in offices and in hallways, but has the nerve to come in and say these children are in danger. She said they silence anyone who has the nerve to call out what they're doing. The state of Tennessee has no respect for Black families, she said. The state of Tennessee has no love for Black children. I'm here to tell you that, baby, it is 2023 and not 1823. And we are going to fight for our children, and we're going to win. Elect Alex Dennis, a DCS spokesman, responding to widespread criticism, the family was subject to disparate treatment because they were Black stressed the diversity of the agency, including the frontline workers involved in removing the 5 children from the family. The case managers that are working this case do come from diverse backgrounds, she said, noting that nearly 35% of the agency's caseworkers and half of the department's deputy commissioners are African American. The case gained widespread attention after a Tennessee Lookout report last week. The Tennessee Democratic Caucus immediately demanded the agency release the children back to the parents. Hours later, DCS filed motions to refer the couple and their attorneys for criminal prosecution for revealing details of the juvenile court proceedings. No details were released Monday about the outcome of the motions. And that's the wildest freaking story I've heard in a while involving kids and cannabis. What do you guys think about this? Let's hear from the audience.
This is just so sad.
So sad.
It's heartbreaking. It's
Pathetic.
heartbreaking. I put it on our timeline last week, just to bring on Sunday actually. And the bigger issue is that now they're trying to say that fentanyl was found in the dad's system as well as methamphetamine. Like they're
in the hair follicle test.
Yeah, trying to add on to what it is that they initially took the kids for, because they took the kids and then did the test. So
yeah, well, they took the kids because the guy got stopped with weed. They were waiting to bond him out, and something must have happened. But at the same time, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're absolutely trying to use this as an example. I'm guessing because there's the obvious decriminalization of cannabis kind of like happening in some of these places in the South, like Mississippi going forward with their medical program, Alabama, all these other southern states. So I think this is just trying to send a message, but it's sending the wrong message. Like, we're going to lock you up and split up your kids in 3 different foster homes. That's crazy. That's the most disturbing thing I've ever heard, and it's like, and then they put a gag order on the attorneys and on the people, right? So they can't talk about it because they already reached out, and, public backlash is real. And the sickest part about bureaucracy is the cover-ups, and this is bad. And I'm glad we're shining light on it. I think there's a big problem in Tennessee.
On our timeline, on M4MM's timeline, you can find the phone number to call the Coffee County DCS.
Awesome.
Nicole,
thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll find that. We'll attach this to articles, so you will also be able to find it in our article when you go to highat9news.com. This is just heart-wrenching. You have any thoughts on this, Rico? You're a dad. What do you have to say about this?
It's sad. It's more of the same, and we just gotta move forward. Stay positive. Stay as positive as you can, and parents take care of parents.
Yeah, and be careful, parents. Like, be smart, man. Like, just because weed's legal, if you got your kids with you, just be smart. Don't even put it up to chance. Like, if I had to deal with that, I would go crazy, man. I couldn't even deal with that kind of stuff. Like, it's very disturbing that the power that the law enforcement has over us as citizens when these things are available. And then again, like, the hair follicle testing, it's like, right, these systems and these instruments they're using, they don't even know how to really properly use. So
if you are a parent that consumes, just make sure you know your state laws, make sure you know your local laws, and adjust accordingly. That's all I can say.
Very, very, very much so.
We're well past overtime today.
Way past.
Let's keep it rocking here. So thank you all out there for tuning in with us for yet another episode of High 9 News. You can always catch us weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our live audience members and online supporters tuning in and giving us feedback on the daily headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. Our vetted industry correspondent team tuning in from all over the global community, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and adding your respected opinions to the conversation. To our production team, thank you, Cloud Media Partners, House of Fuego, the wonderful Jaja Simone, holding things down for us over in Clubhouse, and of course, our sponsors as well. And to the haters, y'all are the yin to our collective yang, and we couldn't have made it this far if it weren't for the daily digital vitriol that you provide, like a warm, hate-filled projectile vomit shower. It's better than gold. And as always, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason the High at 9 News team shows up to read these headlines every single day. We shall forever be in debt to you, baby girl. It is Tuesday. That shit was fucking hilarious. So it's Tuesday, March 21st. The show is over. You've been blessed with today's top industry headlines. We hope it's enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke it at least until tomorrow. Y'all know who it is. Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street. Todd Denkin, you got a quick message for us to take us out.
Always. You should always keep a litter bag in your car. It doesn't take up much room. And if it gets full, you can just toss it out the window.
Yes, allegedly.
Litter bag removes odor.